Hi everyone, welcome back to AB Develops, where you can pick up tips, tricks, and content to help you on your journey to becoming a software developer or web developer. Today we're going to talk about strings. As you know, we talked about in our last video, strings are just a representation of characters behind either double quotation marks or single quotation marks. So for instance, we can create a variable called let name equal John, or we can also say name equals Harry. And we can put this behind double quotations here. Now, the one thing that you can't do is you cannot mix quotations. So for instance, if we wanted to reassign this yet again and say name equals Doe, we couldn't then go and say something like Doe with a single quotation mark and then a double quotation mark. That doesn't work. JavaScript doesn't like that. It will complain. And we can actually see what it'll do if we console.log out this here. So let's console log that out. Name. And we'll run it. Now we get an error. Invalid or unexpected token. So what JavaScript is telling us here is that, hey, this quotation mark here does not match this quotation mark. I wasn't expecting a double quotation mark. You started this string with a single quotation mark. Don't give me a double quotation mark. So we wouldn't want to mix up quotation marks there. What are some things that we can actually do with strings? Well, we can add strings together. So just like you would add two numbers together, we can add strings together. So a really helpful feature is, let's say that we wanted to have a first name. So we'll say first name equals John. And we'll say let last name equal Doe. And here we can console.log, or actually before we do that, let's create a variable to hold both of these here. So we'll say let full name equal first name plus, and we'll want a space here. So we'll have a space there. Plus last name. And then we'll console.log full name. And we'll go ahead and run that. Awesome, John Doe. Now you may be asking yourself, so why do we actually need, I see the plus here, but why do we actually need this space in here? Doesn't JavaScript do that for us automatically? Unfortunately, no. So if we remove this, let's take a look at what that looks like if we don't have that space there. All right. So it removes that space for us. Not exactly what we want. In some cases, this may be what you want. You just want these strings kind of put together. But JavaScript is not going to automatically know to put a space in there. You're going to have to tell JavaScript, hey, I would like a space in between these two strings. So you're really adding three strings together. So when we add strings together, it's called concatenation. String concatenation. And that's what that's called. So we add two strings together. So when we add these strings together, it becomes a brand new string. It is no longer the string that we knew of with John or Doe. This is a totally different string. Because remember, strings are immutable. You can't change them. Now, as we get into string methods, you may be asking yourself, well, if strings are immutable, then how in the world can we do some types of methods on them, like we're going to see in a bit? Well, the cool thing that JavaScript does is, even though the string is a primitive, or it's immutable, right? JavaScript creates a wrapper around the string, and it gives us certain properties. So let's jump into some of the things that strings can do. For instance, let's say that we wanted to grab the first letter in this string. How would we do that? Well, JavaScript gives us two ways to do that. The first way is to grab the string or the character by the index. The index. So the index starts at 0. It's a 0-base index, and it goes from 0 and increments its way up. So for instance, we can console.log full name, and we'll have a open bracket and a close bracket, and we'll put 0. So this is accessing the first letter. And we'll run that. And we get J back. So we can see that we get the first letter back in this string. And if we wanted to get the second, then we would put 1. And we get O. Great. Another way that we can grab individual characters at their positions in a string is with a handy method that JavaScript gives us. So that's called char at. And it works similarly to the way that we just described with the open bracket, close bracket. You will still need to put in your index or the position at which the letter that you want exists at. So we'll do the same thing. We'll put in 0 for the first index there, first position in the string. And we'll go ahead and run that, and we get J, same output. So as you can see, JavaScript gives us different ways to do the same thing. Awesome. Great. So this allows us to grab different characters at specified indexes. And remember, an index is just the position of the character in the string. So it allows us to do that. So what is another thing that we can do? Well, we can compare strings. We can check to see if something is greater than or less than a certain letter. How does this work? Well, we know that A is going to be less than Z, right? Because A is first, Z is last. A is in the beginning of the alphabet, Z is in the end of the alphabet. So that's exactly how this works here. To give you an example, let's do this. So what we'll do is we'll put let Boolean string equal A less than B. So what this is doing is it's saying, is A less than B? This is going to give us the output of this. So let's console.log this. We'll say Boolean string, console.log. Awesome. And it's true. Now, we can reverse this here, and we can say, is A greater than B? And we'll get back false. So you'll notice that you can do certain things like compare strings, and you'll get back a Boolean value. You'll get back a Boolean value. So this goes back to the previous video we talked about values, as you can compare certain things and you can get back Boolean values, a true or false. When you have a Boolean value, you only have two. It's either on or it's off, it's true or it's false. So that's something else that you can do with strings. So let's say that we wanted to get how long a string was. So for instance, let's do full name again. Let full name equal John Doe. And I wanted to see how long this string was. Well, there is a way that you can do that. So in full name, in this string here, JavaScript gives you the length method. So this allows us to be able to see how long this is. So we can actually console.log this out here. Console.log. And we'll see how long this string is. So we'll clear the console. 8 characters long. And it does count the space. So we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So it does count the space in there. So if you have a string that has multiple spaces in it, for instance, if we put a space here and a space here, save it, and we run it, we get 10 because it counts the space as a character in JavaScript. So that is something that you do need to be careful with if you are needing this length. If you're checking, oh, hey, if this name is longer than whatever characters, you will notice that if there's any spaces in there, it'll count those spaces too. So how would we actually trim this here? Well, what we can do is before we grab the length, we can actually chain something else on to this string. So we can say full name dot trim, and this will of course return us a string. That's why we're able to chain different things on here. So this will give us a trimmed string back. So what we should see printed out in the console is we should see 8 printed out in the console. Let's take a look. Awesome, 8. So it trimmed on the end and it trimmed there. And trim actually cannot edit spaces in between words. It can only trim the beginning and end trailing spaces in words. So that's how the trim method works. Let's say that we had some variables, and we wanted to easily insert those into a string. How would we do that? Well, let's create some variables. So we'll say let name equal Marco, and we'll say let job equal software developer, and we'll say let age equal 25. And actually, you know what? Let's increase his age a little bit. Let's say 35. There we go. And what we'll do here is we could do something like this. We could say let sentence equal, and we'll say hi, my name is, and we have a space, and we do this, and we'll have a little space there, and we'll say my name is name, and we'll have a little plus, and then we have to do another space here. My name is Marco, and I am and another space, do plus, and we'll do job, because he's a software developer, and then of course we got to do another space, and my age is, and we of course do another space here plus, then we do another, and then we do age here. And we can console.log sentence and see what we get back. All right. Hi, my name is Marco, and I'm a software developer, and my age is 35. So this is something that you could do. You could concatenate all the strings together. But it seems like this is a lot of work. And up to a certain point, this is how we actually had to concatenate a lot of strings together. Especially when you have a lot of variables, this can get tedious really, really fast. So what's a better way to do this? Well, we can use what's called a template literal. Template literal. So a template literal allows us to insert variables into a string. So all we need is to have backticks. And inside these backticks, we can then write whatever it is we want for how long we want, and we can insert variables just like I'm about to show you. So we can say, hi, my name is, And then if we want to insert a variable, we do a $, open curly brace, and closing curly brace. And we'll say my name is, and we pass in our name, and we'll do a comma this time, right? I am, and we'll put the age, and I work as a, and we'll put in his occupation, his job, and I'll put a little period there. And we can clean this up just a little bit. There we go. We can put this all on one line. Looks a little bit better. And let's console log this out. Awesome. Hi, my name is Marco. I'm 35, and I work as a software developer. Awesome. So this is what's called a template literal, and you see how easy this was compared to what we had to do before. So because you are adding variables right into the string, JavaScript knows where the spaces are, it knows where the punctuation is, it knows how to add these things together. Now, behind the scenes, of course, JavaScript is going through and concatenating these strings. However, you don't have to worry about that, right? You are writing a template literal. You're writing it as what a human would write, and this is much easier to read. It's much easier to parse through. So this is why I particularly like template literals. It allows you to really write in a way that's understandable and allows you to have other people who are maybe in your code, they can really understand kind of what you're writing. So there are other string methods that you can use for strings. So how do you know what string methods are available? How do you actually know that? Well, let's pop over to the browser and I'll show you where you can find those. All right, we're in our browser here and we're going to search for JavaScript string methods. And searching on a browser, whether it be Google or whatever search engine you're using, is a skill that you can continue to develop. This is why I show you this here, because these are things that you will need to do every day in your job as a software developer. I Google all the time. Anytime that I can't remember what string methods are available to me, or array methods, or whatever it is, maybe running up into a hard project that I don't quite know how to solve, Googling or using whatever kind of search engine you like is going to help you. So you'll notice that we searched for JavaScript string methods here, and we got a couple different things. So there's one from W3 Schools, so we can open that up into a new tab, and then we'll also take a look at the MDN docs here. This is called the MDN docs. You'll see MDN web docs here. So open that up in a new tab. So let's take a look at W3 Schools first. And you'll notice that as you scroll down, they'll give you different properties that you can get or different methods that you can use on a string. So let's see what methods are available. So it looks like we have a method called string slice. So it looks like slice extracts a part of a string and returns the extracted part in a new string. So it gives us kind of what we have here. And these are the string positions that we want to do. And it says that the last position, 13, of course, is not included. So let's try this out. Let's go ahead and jump back to VS Code and try this out. Awesome. So we're back in VS Code, and let's go ahead and try out that slice method. So what we'll do is we'll put this into the slice method, of course, returns a new value for us. So we'll need to put this in a variable. So we'll say let new, we'll say sentence slice here. Let sentence slice equal sentence dot slice. And we'll need a start number and end number. So let's say we want to start at the beginning here. And we want to go to about the comma. So I'm going to eyeball it here, and I'm going to say probably around 18, 19 characters. If it's not, we can adjust. So we'll save that, and we'll clear here, and we'll run. Oops, we got to actually console log this. Let's go ahead and console log sentence slice here so we can actually get something printed to the console. And awesome. My name is Mark. So we did miss the mark, no pun intended, a little bit here. So what we can do is increase this to 21. We'll save that and run that again. And awesome, we get my name is Marco. And we could just do 20 here just to leave off the comma, which I think I'll probably do. And awesome. Hi, my name is Marco. So you saw just from a little bit of Googling that you were able to find a string method and use it, right? So this is what you would be doing on a daily basis as a software developer. You would need to go search for different things that you may not know or may not remember, because it is impossible to remember all of these string methods, all of these methods on objects, arrays, all the things that we're going to talk about, functions, all these things. It is impossible to remember. So I look things up all the time. You should feel free to look things up all the time. Get used to Googling, get used to using your browser, get used to searching for things. And as you start to do that, you will get more of a feel for how to search for things, and you'll get better. And as we go through this, you stick through these videos, hopefully you'll learn also how to search for things a little bit better. So let's also pop back over to our browser, and we're going to take a look at the MDN docs. So now we're back in our browser, and you notice that I clicked on the second tab here that we had open. So this is the JavaScript MDN docs. So the cool thing about MDN is on the left side here, you'll notice that there are different properties and methods. So the length here, the length property that we just talked about, allows us to be able to see and print out the length of a string. So this is the property on a string. We also talked about the char at method. So this is the char at method that allows us to print out a character at any given index in a string. Now you may be wondering what the different things are beside these methods here. So the string prototype anchor, all these different things here. If you hover over them, it'll tell you deprecated, not for use in websites. This will tell you experimental, right? Expected behavior to change in the future. So these are things that you probably wouldn't want to use in your application or in a project because they're either experimental or they're deprecated, which means deprecated means that they're going to be taking it out of the browser soon. It may work in some browsers, but it probably doesn't work in all browsers, and it probably isn't something that you want to use either. So that's the great thing about MDN docs. It kind of is a source of truth for all the different things that you can do in JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. So let's see here. Let's take a look at one of these and let's use this here. So I want the includes here. So let's click on includes here. This looks like an interesting string method. So it says that the includes method performs a case-sensitive search to determine whether one string may be found within another string, and it returns true or false. And you can even try it out. This is another reason why I love MDN docs. You can actually try this out right here in the docs, and you can walk away feeling confident. So let's go ahead and jump over and try this. So now we're back in VS Code. And now we want to see if in our sentence slice, the word name appears. We know that it does because we can see it, but we just want to test this out. So what we'll do is we'll do sentence slice dot includes, and we'll pass in name. We want to see if it returns name here. So this will return a Boolean value, or true or false value. False if it doesn't include it, true if it does. So let's see. Awesome, true. We know that that's in there. So we know that this exists, but let's search for something that doesn't exist in our string at all. So let's search for a different person's name. So let's search for John. Does John exist in this sentence here? So let's see. False. No, John doesn't exist anywhere in this sentence at all. So that gives us a good understanding of how to use includes. So these are string methods. These allow you to do certain things with strings. And remember, strings are immutable, but this is a wrapper around the string primitive that allows you to be able to do all these different things. So these are helpers on the string object that is a wrapper around the string primitive. So I know that was a lot of technical jargon that I just threw at you. The most important thing to know is that strings themselves are immutable, and JavaScript gives us helpers on the string to allow us to manipulate the string. So hopefully this video has been helpful for you in learning about strings. Hopefully you have a better understanding of how to create strings, how to concatenate strings, even how to create template literals, and even how to search for different string methods that you can use on your own. So I encourage you to try out and search for different string methods on your own. Go ahead, search for them in the MDN docs, and try it out on your own. And let me know in the comments how that works for you. This has been another episode of AB Develops, and thanks for watching. If you liked the content in this video, go ahead and like and subscribe. I come out with weekly content all the time, and hopefully this was helpful, and I will see you in the next one.